Need any of these monitors on for you.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Scott Agness of Fieldhousefiles.com. Welcome into my live post-game show as the OKC Thunder even the series up at one game piece. 123-107 was the final. Thanks to everyone for jumping on here. I'll take your questions and comments as usual, coming to you from the Paycom Center after today's game. I hope I got this different mic, so hopefully it's a little bit better off for you guys here. But I think where you start with this game is the swarming, suffocating defense that we saw of the OKC Thunder. They did a phenomenal job making everything difficult for the Pacers on the offensive end. Now, it wasn't a sluggish, slower start for the Pacers as much as it was the previous game. They nearly led at the end of the first quarter until that 9-0 burst from the Thunder to close that quarter. They later had another 9-0, and ultimately it became, 35-9 run by the OKC Thunder, and that was really the turning point in this one. A very difficult one to come back, and the thing is, for as well as this team does against comebacks and getting behind by 20 and making comebacks, it's also exhausting, and you can't count on that every single time. And so this is a very difficult situation for the Pacers when you're not getting as many stops. They didn't score any paint points, I think, in that first quarter. Transition points, they were held to about 9 in the game. And despite only 3 first-quarter turnovers, they were right in it. But were outscored in each of the first 3 quarters. We're down by about 15 to 20 points most of the game. And so now Pacers head back to Indianapolis with the series all even at one game apiece. Let's take some of your comments and questions here on the live post-game show. Mr. Compton always on here, ready to get going, so I appreciate that. I think the only bright side today is you got the Nintendo. There you go. I didn't even know those were out, so congratulations to you. Go said Ty was limping post-game interview exit. Did they announce anything? No, you're exactly right. I posted on that on my social media page on Twitter. Yeah, he was definitely having a noticeable limp on his way into the post-game press conference and on his way out. I did not get the mic post-game, so I was unable to ask that question, or else I absolutely would have. No one did. It was about 4 minutes, and it was cut off abruptly because they said the Pacers needed to get out of there. They had 10:35 written on their board. It was like 10:32, but still, we deserve to hear more from Tyrese, the star of the team, than about the 4 or 5 minutes. So, no, we do not have an update. My guess is a combination of a physical play, frustration, you had a loss. I do not expect for it to bother him or keep him out moving forward, but at the same time, it's something we're absolutely keeping our eye on. Basil, I blame me for the loss wearing a Matlock suit. Got to break out the blues. I got blues, I got blacks, I got grays. You got to mix it all up, man. You absolutely do. So funny comment, though. I appreciate that. Justin, why didn't Ty score more in the first half? Little strange. Here's the thing. Those of us been watching Pacer basketball for the last 3.5 years since Ty got here. This is my 13th year on the beat. So I've covered Tyrese every day since he got here. And this is always the back and forth, right? It's when to be aggressive and when to pick his spots, when to get everybody else involved, but also at the same time looking for his shots. I did not like the fact that after the 3 quarters of play, what was he? 2 of 7 from the field, did not attempt a shot inside the paint, and had just 5 points. Now, I thought they made a decisive effort in that fourth quarter to get him going, to really ramp him up. So he scored 12 of their 30 points there in the fourth quarter, made 5 of 6 shots, didn't get to the free throw line, hit a couple threes, though, just a little bit too late in that situation. As for why, though, by the way, I think the number one thing in all of it is not Tyrese's decision-making, playmaking. It was a biggest testament to how OKC swarmed him. They were smothering defensively, especially with Tyrese. Lou Dort did an amazing job on him as well. But you could tell in this game that I don't think coming in there were going to be as many calls. They were going to allow for a physical play. You saw OKC. I mean, they have great adaptability with their defense, how they were switching off. They have great hands, active hands, really stands out. They have some length out there. So they make everything difficult. And in doing so, forget just Tyrese. The fact that the Pacers had 0 fast break points. They had 0 points in the paint, 10-0 after this first quarter, and yet it was still just a 6-point game. So the Pacers had to feel good about that. But that's much more than just Tyrese. But yes, absolutely, Tyrese has to take more than the 7 shots he took through the first 3 quarters, which were the meaningful ones, because by that point, you go into the fourth quarter, it's basically a 20-point game at that point, and it's a lot to overcome. The Pacers at that point had trailed by as many as 23 points entering that fourth quarter when it was, 93-74. So 19-point game. What else do we got here? Eddie, nice suit. Looks better than how the Pacers played tonight. Appreciate that, Eddie. Had to mix this up. I actually have black pants and the Nike sneakers on. So we were good to go on that front. Ghost said, I don't even know how to say that. Hogue said it didn't look serious. It looked like I'm sore. Perhaps it definitely didn't look serious by any means, but yeah, it looked like I'm frustrated. I got defeated tonight. Didn't play his style as much as he wanted to. And I think the overwhelming takeaway in that is just 6 assists. Forget his points. You can go to assists, and that's a direct indicator, I believe, of the way in which this team was able to move the ball, the way in which they were able to flow into their offense. The fact that TJ McConnell had just as many. Now, a lot of those were late, sure. But the team tonight, 27 assists, 37 field goals, not nearly high enough. And it certainly starts with him, though. Daniel had 5 turnovers. You're right. Yeah, he absolutely did. And that stood out for sure, especially there in the first half when he was just kind of forcing things and trying to get things going as they fell behind 15 and 17. And again, I got to wonder, yes, they can make comebacks from 15 and 20 points down, but at the same time, they're on the road. They already won 1 game in the series. You cannot afford to have this continue to be the thing. Yes, you can maybe get 1 game in a series that way, but they set themselves back there in that second quarter. I think it was 11-0 run over that one stretch, and it totaled 35-9. And it was from there, after falling behind by 23, they went into halftime and probably weren't feeling very good about the way in which they had played to this point. Eddie says, got to give Pascal more touches. Don't think he touched the ball enough. Good things happen when he gets the ball below the free throw line. Totally agree. That's how he wants to play. He wants it in the low post and on the free throw line extended or so. And he got to the free throw line, like you mentioned, very well. 8 of 9 from the free throw line. But here's the thing. He didn't have a great shooting night either. He was just 3 of 11 in this one. But much like the tie debate, right, of is he aggressive enough or whatever, there's also that constant debate of have you got Pascal the ball enough? And has he demanded it enough? I thought it was clear. I think it was in the third quarter. They wanted to get Miles involved. He scored their first 8 points, had 10 in the quarter. The fourth quarter went to Tyrese as they tried to get him going after just 5 points through the first 3 quarters. He had 12 in the quarter. If you're the Pacers, he was the last starter in there, but you got to hope that gives him a little bit positivity and some momentum going into Game 3 in Indy, which is not until Wednesday. So, yes, the team's heading back. They'll have Monday. They'll have Tuesday and into Wednesday to rest up and get healthy, and so too will the OKC Thunder. Rodney says Pacers' body language was bad tonight and very lackadaisical, very disinterested, and energy was low. Some of those points are hard to say. I always find it very hard to judge energy level, disinterested. I think they're very focused. They're very interested in trying to come out and get the win and fight back. The trouble is they keep having these setbacks. While they were up, I think it was 20-17, then it was 9 straight from the Thunder to close the first quarter. Then I think that extended to 13-2. And the runs kept pouring on, and the Pacers at that point had not figured out how to slow down the Thunder, who were on a roll. Lou Dort and company were getting stops. They had kept the Pacers outside the paint and were having great success. And if they're able to continue to do that, the Pacers are going to be in a world of trouble if they're unable to get into the paint and have success there, because that's where you can really thrive. Even if it's just getting there to create, right? How many times do the Pacers want to attack and kick out to the left corner in particular? Also the right corner, where they made, I think, 5 of their first 7 shots tonight from the corners. That didn't have nearly that success in the second half. Any chance Jarris Walker can come back this series? Do not count on it, Reggie fan. Don't count on it. Rick Carlisle was asked about Jarris before this series. He said he's certainly out the first 2 games. He was asked about him before Game 2 here tonight, and he says while Jarris is progressing, look, he's still on crutches. He's still a ways away. Now, this is like an 18-day series if it goes to 7 games, but even let's say he could come back for Game 7 in 3 weeks, right? you haven't been playing, you're not in shape. That is a lot to ask of a player. So I think it's pretty much assumed that he will not be available in this series due to that bad ankle sprain that he suffered in the final game of the conference finals. Basil just need to get better ball protection. Active hands need to turn into careless fouls. A lot of active hands if you're talking about OKC. I thought they did a great job staying active, disrupting what the Pacers were trying to flow into, and therefore those open passes and such that they thrive off of so often. Justin asked, am I good to go for the Pacers home games? I remember I mentioned there were some issues with them. I think so. As far as I know, I should be good for the finals, given the fact that the NBA comes in and runs the finals. So I appreciate their professionalism, how they welcome me and want me there, just like they have for the last 13 years. It's been a little different, unfortunately, with this Pacers team. I hope it gets resolved. I still don't know what it is, but I should be good given the fact that it is an NBA event for sure. And then I'll be back here for Game 5 coming up in a week. I just answered Jarris Walker. Yeah, Jarris isn't close. No. Do the Pacers wear shades in the postgame press conference for stylistic reasons, or is it really bright? Oh, it's definitely, Daniel, for stylistic reasons. It's not that bright. No. It is definitely because maybe they're getting them free. Maybe they're trying to look like they have that style, or maybe the brand sent it to them and they get aware and then they get free stuff. It's probably all those different things for certain. But no, usually in the past, that's where somebody pulls it off and says, hey, no chewing gum and no sunglasses. But that has not been the case. They've allowed them to do that. I thought they tried to do too much on their own, too much one-on-one, forcing the issue. Yeah, that often happens, not just with this team, but any team, is when you get down 12 and then 15 and it snowballs into maybe a 20-point deficit, is then oftentimes, guys will try to take too much on their own. And then this one, those individual performances, that's not where this team thrives, right? They're better by committee. They're better when the ball's flowing. The fact only had 27 assists is indicative of that. I think so. Yeah, Walker's ankle looked terrible. I agree. I don't expect for him to be ready. I'm not closing the door on it, certainly, because it's a 3-week series. But even if he's in uniform, I do not expect him to be able to contribute. You need your ankle for every move that you make. So do not expect that. What else do we got here? MK Sinks, welcome. I think you've been on every single one of these, so I appreciate you jumping on here post-game per usual. Shots were definitely there, just not falling when you need it. Yeah, that's part of it. And then, of course, the Thunder making everything so difficult. I thought one thing, look, we're 12 minutes into this. I haven't praised enough the Thunder bench. The fact they were able to get 20 points from Alex Caruso, big advantage. He made 4 threes. That was almost as more than anyone else except Aaron Wiggins. A guy who came off the bench and knocked down 5 3-pointers. He finished with 18 in total. I mean, each one of those basically outscored the Pacers bench until, when the Pacers waved the white flag with 4 minutes to go, took out Tyrese Haliburton, sent in Johnny Furphy. But to that point, I think the bench points were like 35 to 14. Not good enough. And that's a big reason, too, because the bench was outplayed, right? You didn't get that big lift from Obi Toppin, just 3 points in this one of 8. That's difficult. Who was it? TJ McConnell ended up with 11.6 assists. You got 14 from Benedict Mathurin, but no one off the bench really looked sharp. That was an area where the Pacers were certainly outplayed in this one. And look, this Thunder team has that depth. We knew that coming into this series. And so for them to have the response that they did, both as the starters and a bench, I think that speaks highly of where they're at right now. Derby says RJ was critical of Haliburton only being aggressive in the fourth. Thoughts on that? Yeah, again, I think it goes back to what I talked about at the beginning here. Those of us who have seen Tyrese since he arrived with the Pacers several years ago, what was that, 2022? That's been something that he has always struggled with, is when to be aggressive, when to get teammates involved, pick his spots. But at the same time, the defense is trying to be disruptive here, right? Coming into this series, coming into this game, especially off his game 1 performance, they know limit Haliburton, limit the team. So you go into the fourth quarter, it's a 19-point deficit. Thunder feel good about that. And Tyrese, the lone Pacers starter, not to be in double figures at that point. He had just 5 points at that moment. Consider that a huge win. Check that up as a win for the Thunder once you get to that point. Let's see. Rodney, Pacers got to be the more aggressive and physical team in game 3 and play a complete game. Absolutely. No doubt. And that's true for any game. So I totally agree. This was a game where you saw the Thunder come out strong. You saw them set the tone. You saw them play with that disposition that Rick Carlisle talks about. And that was the question I asked Rick post-game is, how did you feel about that tone and how the Thunder set that and then the team's disposition? And he goes, yep, not good. And left it at that. So that tells you how he was feeling about it. And I think we all kind of saw that. Perhaps the better question in that situation is rather when that is going on, what ways do you want to see your teams come out of that and match that disposition and that level of physicality? Because to be certain, the Thunder won in those key departments in this one. Too much ball movement side to side, need to somehow attack the basket, do 2 feet in the paint. Totally agree, Eddie. Yeah, 16 points in the paint per game average in the series. That's not good enough. You need probably 35 points is what you're really looking at. Tyrese hit on it, so I'll share that quote in my story coming up tomorrow. But yeah, this is a situation where you got to have more success in the paint. I thought it was a great game plan by Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Thunder, and a good response from the Thunder there. What they started defensively, with their physicality, with their hands, and keeping the Pacers out of the paint. In a simplistic form, that's why the Pacers lost tonight's game. Basil said, I don't bet often, but I would have put money on Walker having surgery before I would have on him on returning. Sorry. Yeah, it all depends if there's ligaments, a broken bone, what have you. It doesn't obviously seem to be that way. Just a bad sprain. I would gather at least a grade 2 based on what we've seen. Grade 3 usually means surgery. So grade 2, you're probably out 3 to 4 weeks at minimum. Maybe it's more like 4 to 6. Therefore, he's not in there for the series. So that is my expectation. I don't know that, but I believe it's something like a grade 2, and I would not expect to see Jarris. But again, Jarris would not be a huge difference maker. He would show a different look. You would want his availability. You would want to throw him out there for 10 minutes. But that's not the focal point. That's not a reason why they're losing right now. Eddie, just can't let Caruso go off for a season high. Wiggins got hot like that. Didn't feel any impact from Pacers bench, like, as you mentioned, Shepard, Top, and Bryant, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. You had a couple bench players, Mathurin and McConnell, score and kind of set the tone in some ways. I thought Mathurin was strong on some defensive efforts. But you need, forget even the scoring, you need them to impact the game in some way and not just exist out there. And I thought too much of what we saw was not that out there. Do you think the whistles were equal? I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like, that's one where, I'm very cautious of, unless it was blatantly obvious. It's really hard to see, I think, in live action, especially, let me tell you, I was way the heck up there. So did not have a great viewpoint, to be clear. Didn't even have my binoculars. So that doesn't help. Now, I thought there were a couple situations that went against both teams, right? But I didn't think the whistle was overwhelmingly good or bad either way. The fact that both teams got to the free throw line about the same amount of times, yeah, I don't really have much to say in terms of officiating. I thought Zach Zarba, really good official. I thought a couple times the consistency of what they call they allow a lot of physicality, but then you call a hand check. That'd be my only thing when it comes to it. Mr. Compton, OKC's bench, the difference maker in the game. I agree, no doubt. Pacers did not get much from their bench at one point. Again, going into the fourth quarter, I think they had like 15 points compared to the Thunder at 35. They had two players with more point contributions than the Pacers bench in a totality, right? They just have to make more of an effort, and I think they'll get there, right? Dasani water, do I taste? Been talking all day, Eddie, so I need something. And this is the good water that they provide. So, no, it's not my preference, but I'll take free when I get it. Tyrese waited till the fourth quarter to show up. Why, Paula asked. Good question. He was asked about that, and I kind of addressed that a little bit earlier on. It's one of those situations he constantly battles with, but I think the overwhelming thing is how OKC guarded him. They applied full court pressure. They were in his face. They made him uncomfortable, made every pass difficult. And the fact that he turned it over a couple times early on, this is not a team where I think he's going to go with 0 turnovers in a game. They're just too balanced. too aggressive and too in his face that makes everything difficult for him. And so then that speeds you up. And I thought in that second quarter, Pacers got sped up 1 degree. They did not stop the avalanche that we saw there in that second frame from the Thunder when they really had it going and were pouring it in and knocking down shots. I think they were shooting like 58% at one point. And that's a combination of Ty's got to do more, and also teammates got to help him, maybe shake loose, maybe set a screen. A lot of, again, what they're doing is read and reacting. So they're not calling a ton of plays here. And so it does lean towards this, but I totally agree. He's got to have more than 5 points and seven shots going into the fourth quarter like he did. He needs that number to be more like 12 or 13, regardless, because you're not going to win when he's having a 5-point game like he did. But this, to be clear, this is not all on Tyrese. This is not even close. I thought there weren't many players that had great games when it comes down to it. I did want to note Aaron Nesmith's 4 3-pointers. Those were huge. Rebounding, they got out rebounded there, but I think it was mostly just because of more missed shots by the Pacers. But you want to talk about equal, by the way. How about both teams putting up 82 shots? Free throws, relatively similar. So it just came down to execution, physicality, and how these teams responded to one another. See you guys. Too much pump faking, not enough shooting, Flamekeeper says. There's a lot of that, and you know why you do that? It's because the defense is all up on you. You're trying to create that separation. You're trying to get them off balance. You're maybe trying to get to the free throw line. That's what leads to that. I don't know. This game was not really different than game one. Siakam Toppin having such terrible shooting was the only significant difference. I thought Haliburton was a little bit more involved, right? Oops, excuse me. I thought he was looking for a shot a little bit more. But they're going to try to remove him from the equation. The big difference, I will say, from game one is all those turnovers. Tonight, I haven't even mentioned it because it wasn't that big of a factor, but the Pacers turning it over 15 times. The biggest thing in all this was the Thunder converted those into 14 points versus game one. Pacers turned it over 25 times, I think it was, and Thunder only scored 9 points out of it. Yeah, I would agree with that. Ty scoring in the fourth, both because he was looking for it, and yeah, you do see them let up a little bit, given the 20-point lead and not trying to foul and all of that. I hope OKC's confidence didn't tenfold today. Here's the thing. This is a team that does not lose back-to-back games. They've responded well in every one of their postseason games, not losing back-to-back, and we saw them have a 68-win season. They went 29-1. They're now 30-2 this season against Eastern Conference teams. I don't think they lost any confidence. Look, they had the Pacers in game one until that final shot, right? Until that final 2.5 minutes. If you go to the Thunder, they're going to say, hey, look, we were the better team throughout. We forced all those turnovers. We had that swarming defense. We got up, 19, 17 points in game one, and we let that slip away. That's what they would say when it comes down to it. What else we got? Mike Bring mentioned Lisa Salter's mom on the broadcast. If you see the Fever staff with Coach Weiss, please pass along support. Sure thing. Absolutely. Yeah, Lisa Salter's mom's went through some stuff last fall. So it's been about 8 months now. They were hoping she recovered well. I don't know what her current state is by any means, but that's for certain why Stephanie and both and Lisa are away from the respective teams, their respective jobs right now, and I wish them well. And hopefully Lisa's mom's okay, but I do not know the status of her. But obviously a great concern, the fact that you miss a finals game and Steph misses a regular season key game because of it. So sending them our well wishes. Absolutely, DMB. Rodney says Pacers defense got to be a lot much better in game 3, limit OKC from getting free throws. Yeah, I mean, that's always the case for every team, right? But yes, the defense as a whole, you're right. They've got to apply more pressure. They do have to make things a lot more difficult. And you got to match that physicality. I thought that was the area in which OKC had a firm grasp of this game, is the way they imposed their will, where they took away the Pacers' airspace. They made them a little bit uncomfortable, and we didn't see the Pacers respond properly. We didn't see them respond, in my opinion, the way they needed to and are capable of doing so. I think Steven Jackson said he'll be there in game 3. Do I know any other legends? No, I don't. I have not heard, but I presume the Pacers are treating it much like the conference finals and are trying to bring back all those same alums, and that would be fantastic. Would love to see that. I know the Fieldhouse will be ready. They'll be excited, and amped up. These are the first final home games since 2000. And during that time, the Pacers came back from LA limping. That was probably a bad use of that word, given what we saw from Tyrese postgame. But from that series, Pacers were down 0-2, hammered, I think, in game one. Reggie did not have a good first game in that series. And so Miles Turner was talking about how tonight he knows the crowd will be ready. He wants that crowd to be even better than the Thunder were tonight. And let me tell you, they are fantastic here. They're engaged from the very beginning. This is the one arena that does an invocation and the national anthem. They have fans in their hands making noise, rallying and ready to go. On top of that, it was a blue out here tonight. So everybody in blue, and I'm sure the Pacers will have a gold out coming for game 3. They haven't announced it just yet, but I think that's a safe assumption given the Pacers are going to be wearing their yellow statement edition uniforms for the entirety of this series. But no, Mr. Compton, do not know for certain who or what alums will be there. Good evening, Jency. Appreciate you joining. Paula said CC might be available for Wednesday. That's Caitlin Clark. And yes, she could. She's day-to-day, but we shall see. Kimono, good to see you here. At least the Pacers got the split. Now the Pacers must protect home court. They have a Game 3 series shocker. It's over for sure. That's one thing the Pacers have to prevent from happening. They've been terrible in Game 3s throughout the playoffs. They've been good otherwise. This is actually the first time in 8 games, the first 2 games to start each of the 4 series that they've lost. That was my question to Rick Carlisle. It's the lead of my postgame story that I will get to here postgame coming up. But they were 7-0 until here tonight. Had handled these first 2 games, including the last couple of series on the road, and done quite well. But not the case here tonight at Paycom Center. Hey, Scott, missed me covering the Fever, but doing great work covering the Pacers. Yeah, appreciate that, Leslie. Thank you. Still posted that post-game press conference for you from Chicago. Just a complete ass-kicking we saw there from the Fever in the Sky, right? I think they were up by 30 at one point. That is not a rivalry whatsoever. Again, tonight, the final 123-107. OKC all over the Pacers to send it back to Indianapolis with the series tied at 1 game apiece. A couple more minutes here, then I need to wrap up and make sure I have a bus back to the media hotel. If there's any other final questions here, again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, haven't talked enough about him. He just wakes up and scores 30 points. This is his 9th straight playoff game at home, scoring at least 30, finishing with 34 points, 11 of those scored tonight at the free throw line. What did he also chipped in? 5 rebounds, 8 assists. You know he's good for that. But still, with that line, I still would expect the Pacers to be able to compete. What you're trying to prevent against, to guard against, is that massive game. It's that 50-point game, ultimately. And the difference, though, was they had 4 other players in double figures. 2 bench players almost with 20 points, including one of them, Alex Caruso, scoring 20 points. They got a ton of three-pointers, like 11 of them from their bench, which was a significant difference in this one, which was basically a 20-point deficit most of the way for this Pacers team. Not enough for them to overcome. This one did not have the same feel as game 1 in terms of, they can make a comeback. They're right there, just based on the flow and the stylistic of this game and how OKC really imposed their will and made everything difficult. Whereas I felt like in game 1, a lot of it was just all self-imposed. It was just turnover, not handling the pressure, throwing the ball into the crowd. I didn't feel like that was the case as much here tonight. Did I hear Michael Beasley beats Lance Stevenson for 100,000? I knew that game was happening. I did not see that. No. Have been a little bit busy here in Oklahoma City. So assuming that happened, which I think it did by now, no, I totally missed it. Hard to believe the Lakers traded Alex Caruso. I forget how it all went down. But look, you got to always constantly look for ways to upgrade your team. And Caruso has been fantastic. He came from Chicago, didn't he? That's how he got here, I believe, if I remember correctly. It was Caruso, and then they signed Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason after he was with the New York Knicks and had earned his way to this big contract, I think like $27 million per year here with the Thunder. Before that, he wasn't making very much. And before that, he was really just trying to earn it at each of his stops along the way. All right, as I wrap up, let's look forward to game 3. It's coming up Wednesday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I know Pacer fans will be ready. I know the city will be ready. What do we need to see? We need Tyrese to be more involved. And it's not it's not necessarily just shots coming up. It's not just shots that we're talking about. It's more than anything, it's his passing. How much is he able to get his teammates involved? How much is, like Eddie was saying earlier, is he able to touch paint and create out of the paint? And here, they weren't really able to get to the teeth of through the teeth of the defense. They were struggling on the perimeter. They were struggling from like 28 feet. And so those became challenges, and there was the snowball effect. And what was it? Again, it was that 35-9 run that was really the turning point there in that second quarter, of which they were never able to truly recover from that. I can't even remember off the top of my head the last time they had it within single digits. It feels like it was there early in that second quarter, but it was a rough one for the Pacers tonight. It really was. And here's the thing. If you're the Pacers, I think it's better for them to get blown out like they were, to not lose on a buzzer beater the other way and feel like they were this close, because they know, look, they got to adjust, or Thunder are going to get home court advantage right back in game 3. You can't just rely or default on going back home or playing in front of your home fans. You have to be ready, even more so given how this team has performed in game 3. So it starts with Tyrese. I'd like to see Miles do a pick and pop earlier in the game to get him engaged. He missed a couple early threes. He just has to stay at it. Pascal, he scored the first basket of the game for the Pacers on their first possession. He scored the second, I want to say, as well. But then you didn't really hear from him for quite a while there. He really got most of his points at the free throw line tonight, 8 of his 15 points there at the charity stripe. So just not a complete performance by the Pacers. So many areas for them to clean up as they lose in game 2, 123-107 the final. That'll do it for me here at Paycom Center. Appreciate everyone joining on as I do one of these after every single Pacers playoff game. That will continue coming up Wednesday back in Indianapolis. Thanks again for joining, and I will talk to you all again soon. Have a great week, everyone.